By now I thought I'd have my shit together. By now I thought that I'd be doing better. Right now it's looking like that might be never. Right now it's looking like that might be never. I thought that I'd be happier. Just thought that I'd be happier. Didn't think I'd have it all. Guess I just thought that I'd be happier. I'm spending money I haven't made yet. Tell me I'm important. Been faking smiles so long, my face hurts. Just pretend you feel normal. By now I thought I'd have my shit together. By now I thought that I'd be doing better. Right now it's looking like that might be never. Right now it's looking like that might be never. I thought that I'd be happier. Just thought that I'd be happier. Didn't think I'd have it all. Guess I just thought that I'd be happier. Just thought that I'd be happier. I don't even want it all. Just wanna feel a little happier.
먼지 시간 속 잠든 너를 찾아가 아무리 막아도 결국 너의 곁인 걸 길고 긴 여행을 끝내 이젠 돌아가 너라는 집으로 지금 다시 way back home.
Hello, hi everyone. A very good afternoon to you again, and welcome to the Marketing Institute of Singapore's 17th lunchtime webinar sessions. Wow, we've reached 17. After I think we've been doing this for the past 16 days, and today our 17 days again. Now today it's our last speaker of this second series, and of course, like what we have said previously, we will be here. Do look out for our third series of speakers coming up, in fact, from tomorrow onwards. Okay. MIS, we're doing our very part. The Marketing Institute of Singapore, we're doing our very part in terms of supporting you at staying at home, SG, during this lunchtime. We will be with you right till the end of the lockdown period. So no worries. Every day between 12:30 to 1:30, we will be here. And our trainers will be sharing with you on the topic and on the subjects which they are, of course, an expert in. Okay. Now, of course, next week or this week, starting from tomorrow on, we'll be having our new series, the third series of speakers coming on board. Just to give you a bit of teaser, on that. Tomorrow, it will be Mr. Jack Yao. Jack Yao is actually the from the China Council for Promotion of International Trade, Commercial Sub-Council. He'll be coming to us live from China, Beijing, which he'll be sharing on the topic of service with a smile, thanks to standards. Now, I know they have been doing a lot of standardization in China right now, and he plays a very important part in coming up with standards in terms of contactless delivery, standards of marketeers, standards of agencies. So tomorrow it'll be interesting to listen to him. What he's got to offer, as in what is China doing during this period of time, post-COVID for them. Okay, and of course, part of the lineup will include Professor Ang Peng Hua. Wow, Ang Peng Hua is an interesting speaker. Actually, I really enjoy his speaking sessions, his talks during some of the seminars. And in fact, he's also the chairman of the Advertising Authority of Singapore. So look out for him. And of course, Allens and Professor Catherine Tay will be touching on some law-specific topic. Okay, now, just in case if you miss out on our lunchtime webinar, no worries, because all this is actually made available to you on our YouTube channel. So do look out for the past sessions that you have missed, or perhaps you want to revisit them again. You can always log on to our Marketing Institute of Singapore YouTube channel or our Facebook, okay? And of course, today we've got quite a big pool of attendees coming from all over the place. We have from Malaysia, our Asia Marketing Federation folks. And of course, we have a few of our regulars, including Professor Catherine Tay. I can see that you're there. All right. And of course, to look out for more, they'll be coming in. Now, remember, we are also on live on Facebook itself. So do log on to our Marketing Institute of Singapore Facebook Live and help us by clicking on the buttons. Now, it's going to come up on the screen right away. Okay. So you can either do it after the sessions if you're on Zoom. Otherwise, if you're on live, help us to share the sessions on live itself. There we have it. Today, our speaker, someone very exciting, very interesting. I've known him for more than 10 over years. In fact, close to 18, I think, by the name of P. Subramaniam. All right. And in fact, it's actually our MIS Marketing Institute of Singapore newly acquired trainer itself. It's very interesting to learn from him, okay? And basically, he'll be touching on topics such as building brands with customers' experience. Now, Subra, I'll tell you a bit more after the introduction of some of MIS activities before he comes on board, all right? Okay, next. Now, as we know, during, I think, this week itself, we have a speaker, Mr. Iwan Setawan, who is the author of this book itself, the Marketing 4.0. All right. Basically, this book itself is authored by Philip Kotler and Hermawan Kartajaya. All right. And of course, Iwan Setawan as being one of the writer itself. Okay. Now we're giving away this book free. Okay, Marketing 4.0. Just in case you were to wonder, what is this Marketing 4.0? It covers a lot of new concepts, new terminology, and new ways of looking at customers, profiling, product, and some of the new methods in terms of doing marketing, especially during this age, digital age itself. All right. And well, if you want to get get hold of this book for free, log on to our Marketing Institute of Singapore Facebook page and tell us, why do you think you would like to have a copy of this book? We have quite an overwhelming response. In fact, we originally were supposed to give out 3, but because of the overwhelming response, we probably will give out another 2 more. So we'll make it 5 for all of you. So do click onto our Facebook page in the Marketing Institute of Singapore and drop us a message. Tell us, why do you think you want this book? Okay, all right, it's just simple, very easy as that. Okay, and of course, back to Subra itself. Now today, Mr. Subra, P. Subramaniam will be touching on building brands with customers' experience. Especially during this period of time, digital transformation itself, I think we should consider the role of customers' experience. Okay, and how driving brand building is a very important vehicle itself in terms of retaining customers. Okay, so I think I will not talk much about that, but rather I'll leave it to Mr. Subra, which will be telling us more. Okay, back to our EDS program. Now, of course, all this is brought to you by our Marketing Institute of Singapore Executive Development Program. We've been doing this for the past, 20 over years, 30 years, in fact, and we have been voted for 5 years consecutively by the HRM community of Singapore itself as being the #1 corporate trainer in Singapore. Yeah, I think that deserves a round of applause. All right, and basically, that tells you that we deliver very, very good executive training courses. And as you can see, we've got more than 120, I think last count we've got about 150 courses across 9 disciplines. Discipline such as in sales, such as in events management, leadership, marketing, human capital, business management, communications, service excellence, and personal effectiveness. I'm very sure that you should be able to find one of those courses that will be of your interest itself, and pick up one of those courses, especially during this COVID lockdown time where you're staying at home. I hope you're not watching Korean dramas or playing games, online games. Make it useful for you so that post COVID itself, you will be able to utilize one of the skills that you pick up during this period of time, and in fact make yourself even more relevant. Especially, I know a lot of companies out there are going, facing a crisis, and some of us may lose our job. So I think this will be a very good time for you to pick up good skills. All right. Okay, which brings me to my next slides. Now, like what I said, in this age, in this time, if you are not armed with digital marketing skill set, you will be obsolete, huh? Okay. So therefore, at the Marketing Institute of Singapore Business School, that's where we have all our diplomas and advanced diploma courses. So we do have a course in advanced diploma in digital marketing. Now, I've always said, when from time to time, I met up with some digital marketers, and they always introduce themselves as a digital marketer. So I always pose these questions to them. How would you certify yourself as a digital marketer? Okay, so this is where you can get yourself certified by attending our advanced diploma in digital marketing. Okay, and this is a academic qualifications, not just one of those courses that you attend, but it's a full 6 months to 8 months course, which will make it very easy for all of you. Okay, you can do it part-time. In fact, it's being done on part-time right now. So as a marketer, I believe it's a very important skill. So do pick up on some skills on digital marketing and make yourself relevant. And this is at the advanced diploma level. Okay, and of course we have our diploma in sales marketing and diploma in business, which I myself am past graduates from the Marketing Institute of Singapore diploma in sales and marketing. So do find out, if you have someone, your niece, nephews, someone out there that thinks that they need to upgrade into a diploma, or maybe you're from an engineering field, you find that you need some form of training in the area of marketing itself, or running your business. These are some of the diplomas that you can pick up from us, and it's open for registration right now. You can reach us at the telephone number at 86663092. Now, of course, there's always other ways that you can reach out to us. You can also log in into our Marketing Institute of Singapore Business School website, or go on Facebook and look out for us from there. Okay. Next. Like I've always said, the very first thing that some of you will come to me will be, to ask me about, hey, Roger, am I able to get some form of discount, especially during this period of time? I think where all of us are feeling a crunch in our purse. Okay, definitely you can, and do join us as a member, as an associate member itself, and as an associate member of the Marketing Institute of Singapore, you do get to enjoy some form of discount, especially our executive training courses. That's where you are able to enjoy up to 30%. Wow, it's quite a good saving on some of our courses, and in fact, the normal price of our associate membership will cost you around $100. But during this period of time, MIS, we are doing, the Marketing Institute of Singapore, we're doing our very bit in terms of helping you to come on board as a member. And therefore, good news to all of you out there, we are giving it free. Okay, only this period of time, yeah. So please get on it. Right? It will not be made available to you in June, so it's only for this month. Do find out more how you can join us as a member, an associate member. And there are two numbers out there which you see on your screen right now. Judy and Eggle, call them, WhatsApp them, look out for them in any way. And if you would like to sign up for a membership, tell them, all right, fill out the forms. Okay, next, which will bring us to our next slide, mass donation. Now, this is something that I've been telling all of you, please help us. In this mass donation itself, we are doing our very bit in terms of supporting our ASEAN counterpart who are being faced with mass shortages right now. Okay, and of course, you know, they come from a very vulnerable community and the underprivileged. Singapore, our government is doing great, man. They're giving us our third mask to ensure that all of us are equipped with the basic safety equipments such as a mask or to actually protect ourselves from COVID-19. Now, I couldn't say that I couldn't say of the same to our community in the ASEAN, especially in Philippines. So we are doing our bit in terms of helping our neighboring countries scan the QR code. Okay, all you need to do is just to spend $20 for a box of masks, which we are getting directly from the manufacturer, and then you'll be able to benefit 50 of such 50 people, the underprivileged people and the frontliners in Philippines. Okay, so do help us in this. A small little and a small amount will go a long way, especially, you know, helping those people really in need of a mask right now. Okay, imagine if you to go out on the streets right now without a mask, how would you feel? So in fact, that's quite common in the rural area in Philippines right now. So therefore, we are doing our bit in terms of helping the donation drive. Okay, all right. So click on the QR code, scan on the QR code itself, and find out how you can help us, okay, to benefit our community in the region. Now, of course, MIS, we are going virtual, as in everyone right now. And all our courses are being conducted online right now, okay? I think that's a good thing, you know. Think about all the benefit of you attending courses at the comfort of your home or even in your office, okay? And we're using Zoom platform, all right? So it's easy for you. You cut down all the unnecessary traveling journey, and yet you are able to gain knowledge from the comfort of your home. I think that's great, right? Isn't it? All right. So do find out more on our courses, and in fact, you know, especially during this period of time, or even post-COVID, quite a number of our courses will be going online, go virtual. Okay. All right. So I think enough of your hearing from me. I think today, most importantly, we want to hear from our speaker. Okay, let me do a short introduction on Mr. Subra. Now he's a good friend of mine. Oh my God, I'm so excited today. Okay, now let me introduce our speaker today, Subra. Subra is currently a lecturer with the Singapore Institute of Management, SIM. Okay, now he has always been, I know through my engagement with him, it's always about, you know, telling me about or talking about how he's able to actually benefit the next generation. And I can see the passion from him. Certainly he's very passionate about that. Okay, and we've been talking about that for the past like 3 years. And Mr. Subra itself, he graduated from the National University of Singapore with a business administration degree, and of course a law degree from the University of London. Wow, okay, that's a killer combination, you know, having business and law. Okay, so without further ado, let's welcome Mr. P. Subramaniam into the room, where he will be talking on the topics of building brands with customers' experience. Yes, let me give a round of applause. Hi, Mr. Subra.
Hi, can you hear me?
I have to tell you this, you are the only speakers that really keeps me awake throughout last night.
Now I'm getting worried.
So excited of you coming on board, man, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
And able to share
And
with us your experience. And of course, like what I said, Subra, sir, I know you as a really true driver of marketing, especially when it comes to brand itself. So I think none other than I can think of perhaps only a few, but you as the authority to talk about brands, man, sir. So today we have quite a huge turnout. In fact, a very good turnout. So take it on, sir.
thank you.
Let's share with us on your topic on building brands with customers' experience. There you have it. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Roger, for the very generous introduction that you've given me. And big hello to everybody who is, tuned in today, fellow Singaporeans, as well as, everyone who is from the region. So like Roger said, I think it's a good time to be talking about customer experience and brands. I mean, if you think about customer experience, just during this period, if you're a business, you've had to improvise your customer experience in a very short time, with all the stay at home and changes that have happened within a very, very short time. So, I think that it's good to think about it that way. And as we come out of this, which, I'm hoping is soon, there will be, again, changes in the way consumers probably, would want to interact with businesses. So I think it's a good time to talk about it. But what we'll be talking about really is a sort of a conceptual framework. And I'm going to anchor this on brand building. So let me just bring up my slides. And then, okay, there you have it. So, so the talk today is about brand building with customer experience. Now, I am not going to delve into the brand building and how you go about doing that, because I think that is another topic altogether, which someone in MIS would probably want to take up. But let me anchor brand building with customer experience. So let me start by saying, why do brands matter? Why do they matter? So let me just go through these 4 points which I've put together. Essentially, brands build trust and loyalty. You know when you engage with a brand, you trust it. There might be how much you trust it, you don't trust it. And certainly brands are there for the purpose of building loyalty. I think that's something we've all known, right? Brands are also less vulnerable to competitive marketing action. So if your competitor does something, if you have a strong brand, chances are you will be able to withstand some of it, because you've already got a strong brand. You can buy some time. You may not need to react immediately. You may not need to react. But having said that, in today's world, you also need to be innovative. You need to be out there. So, but nevertheless, a strong brand is a very, very important asset. If you have a superior brand, you will be able to drive better margins and therefore profitability. So strong brands, presumably you can command a better price and therefore drive better margins and then profitability. And the last one I think is quite interesting. In today's world, you have to work with various partners. All brands are tying up partnerships and so on. And in that world, if you have a strong brand, more people would be more willing to work with you. In fact, they might actually seek you out. And then over and above that, there are trade opportunities, your distribution channels and so on. Feel a lot more comfortable and dealing with you, right? So that's why I think brands matter. And you can think of a whole host of other reasons why brands matter. Okay, let me move on. Okay, this is a picture. Try not to look at the young ladies. Try and see what's below. What's below is the question: what is the link between customer experience and brand building? And I think this is the essence of what I am trying to share with you today. I choose this picture only because I think if you're Singaporean, you would be very, very familiar with this brand. It is really, our best known brand around the world. And I think if you're not Singaporean, you should still have encountered it one way or the other. But when you think about this great brand that we have, I mean, sure, the industry is going through big challenges today and so on. Let's park that aside. They're going to come out of this, but what is it about this brand that is, endears everybody to it? And I would argue that one of the most important things is the customer experience. At one time, they even ran a slogan to say that we're an airline that even other airlines talk about, emulate. And actually, there have been many who have followed in their footsteps. So essentially, what I'm saying is that you build a great brand when your customer experience is great. And Singapore Airlines is definitely one of the ones that we can all relate to in the Singapore context. Now, let me get a bit deeper into this. How do we link this brand and customer experience? So there's this thing called a brand promise. If you're a brand, you are going out there and sending a message to your customers, to the market. You're making a sort of promise as to what is it you're going to deliver. When you buy this service, when you buy this product, what exactly are you going to deliver? And this promise really sets the expectations for customers, okay, as to what is this experience. And this is the link that I think it is very, very important as marketeers that we need to remember. Okay. So some examples here, of some well-known and great brands, if you will. I think just to think about how they live up to their promises. So obviously everybody is familiar with Apple, the Think Different campaign. Are they different? I think yes, especially in the early days. They have been very, very different in the and that promise has delivered a much different user experience from what was out there, and that was exactly what they were pushing for. Take BMW, for instance. Their slogan was the ultimate driving machine. And what they promise is that when you drive that car, it is the ultimate driving machine. And those of you who have driven a car, that car will probably agree with me. SIA was a great way to fly, and again, that experience was great. Now, for these first three brands, I think these taglines, these promises were made some years ago. They don't quite carry these in their campaigns these days, but I think ultimately the core of the organizations probably still believe in them. They may modify or change some of these things. Let's move on. Nike. To bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. That's a big statement, Inspiration and innovation to every athlete. And this does not mean that you are a professional Olympic athlete or you're playing in the EPL or something like that. No, it's anyone who participates in sports, even the disabled who participate in sports. And the whole idea is that they bring inspiration and innovation. And when you make a promise like that, that's a very, very big statement. And I think I'll leave you to judge whether they've lived up to that or not. Last but not least, the other example I just picked out is H&M, more fashion choices that are good for people, for the planet, and your wallet. Again, a big promise. They will offer fashion choices that are suitable to your wallet. Price is important, but they make a claim. They are good. They're good for people. People, not just the customers, but in the communities where they make their products, and also the planet. Okay, so big promise, and I think you have to be the judge of how that translates into that customer experience. Okay, let me move on. So let me just try and define customer experience for the purpose. And I think most academics, most practitioners would agree with this, from based on some research that I've done. Essentially, customer experience is your customer's perception, and emphasize the word perception, of their interactions with your business or brand. So how the customer perceives your brand or your business when he is interacting with you. Okay, so it is about perception. While the interaction is happening, it is the perception that he goes away with. And when you start talking about perception, you start getting into the space of brand, right? So very important. That interaction in itself is not isolated, because as he interacts with you, he adds to that perception of your brand. Now, a couple of things that influence this: the company culture, certainly, because depending on how the employees and management build that culture, it is going to translate into the interactions when customers interact with you. And there are many examples of this. You can go and look at that, but certainly I think it's quite true. Leadership, of course, today is the day of rockstar CEOs. Everything a CEO does, either at work or in his personal lives, especially in technology, gets monitored, gets tweeted about, gets talked about. So leadership becomes very important. So if what how you're behaving does not sit well with your brand, then I think you start to see that. Business processes and rules, this is really my favorite, because I think that's where a lot of the customer experience can be improved by making processes simpler, easier, and then it makes it much easier for customers to then start dealing with you. Of course, your product quality and all the communications that you put out there, advertising, PR, all that you do. So let me just frame customer experience again, just to reiterate. It is really the perception of interactions with your business, and it's influenced by a number of things. Okay, let's look at this slide. I think there are two key points to be made here. On the left, let me focus what's being said on the left first. When you look at customer interactions in today's world, I think you can put it down into three types of interactions: the human, the physical, and the digital. I mean, a lot is being talked about digital these days, but I think you cannot ignore the human and the physical in today's world. Of course, digital is getting a lot more important. Now, when I say human, just to break it down, we're talking about the attitude and the competence of staff that you deal with. Of course, attitude, many times we are tracking people's perceptions, the staff's politeness, are they friendly, are they caring towards you, and so on. Competence is how professional they are. Can they solve your problem? Can they give you the advice that you need? Are they knowledgeable about their products? Are they knowledgeable about your requirements? That's competence. I have not added this, but I think you can throw in appearance as one of those human attributes. In many organizations where you deal with humans, you can think about how they are suited out. If you go to a high-end fashion brand, they are in ties and high heel shoes and what have you. And yet you go into some companies, deliberately, some of the technology companies, they probably in t-shirts and jeans, so that says quite a lot about how the human interactions and the appearance goes towards it. Next, physical, very, very important, because in many businesses, the physical still is there. I think many of us are just waiting to get out of home to go and experience what is out there in restaurants, in theaters, in the cinemas, and so on. So the physical is very, very important. Let's hope that comes soon. But just talking about physical, the layout, how is a store laid out? How is a library laid out? How are theaters laid out, right? Furnishing, and the furnishing speaks a lot, right? If you have old-fashioned furniture versus new modern type furniture, that also talks to you. The equipment that is there, does it look like it's going to address your concerns? Whatever equipment, if you go into a car workshop, does he have a lot of equipment or he doesn't have? Does the equipment look sophisticated? Does it not? Whatever it is, equipment. And then ambience being the lighting, the smell, and the colors, and so on. And last but not least, signages. So these are all the physical aspects. Digital, I mean, if you talk to anybody who claims to be an expert on digital, I think these are some of the things that he will say are important. The ease of use, how you navigate. This is like layout. You navigate around a website, an app, whichever. The tone and manner in which the brand speaks to you, images being used, and so on. So that's digital. So just to recap, there's a human, there's a physical, and a digital. But I think the point to emphasize is that there are many interactions and at multiple touch points. Okay, many interactions at multiple touch points. But what we need to remember that it is one relationship. You have one single relationship with a customer, despite the number of interactions. Okay, when do these interactions occur? Certainly when you are searching for information about the brand or the business, you are interacting with the brand. A lot of the digital marketing stuff that we talk about, I think over the last couple of sessions that we've had, there was something on measurements, and a lot of it was on digital marketing and how you measure effectiveness of that. And then I think about 2 days ago, there was talk on content marketing and so on. So all this is at that search information. This is where the emphasis comes in. And then there's a sales encounter, right? How does the sales process happen? And when customers consume the product, if you've bought a car and you are driving it, probably will be with you for 10 years. As you consume, you're constantly interacting with the brand. How does it feel? How is it behaving with you, and so on? And then there are other after-sales encounters, like when you get billed. If you get billed wrongly, imagine you get a credit card bill and there's an error in the building or something like that, that's going to be a terrible interaction for the brand and you. Repairs, after service, and then loyalty program. Loyalty programs are big these days. Everybody is into a loyalty program. That itself is a whole customer experience program. Okay, so just bear in mind, interactions are happening throughout, but it's still one relationship. So let me come to this slide. So I just put the picture there so that, it looks interesting. I kind of like it, but I think the words are really, really important. Customer experience activities without brand alignment represent a lack of strategy. Okay, customer experience activities without brand alignment represent a lack of strategy. So I think you can figure that out. If you are focused on your customer experience activities, at your sales point, your website, your repairs, your customer service. But if you ignore the brand, or the brand is only comes into play at one part of that process, then I think you're missing out on the strategy. Likewise, if you are engaged in brand activities without focus on the customer experience, then you're not bringing the brand to life. You're not bringing the customer experience to life, because branding without customer experience, or let me just read that, branding without customer experience truly exists as the brand comes alive through customer interaction. So only with the customer interaction does the experience come alive because of the brand. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Now, this is something that KPMG has put out, and they call it the 6 pillars of customer experience. I'll just read through them first, and then I'll kind of expand on them. I'll start with personalization and then go anti-clockwise. Personalization, expectations, time and effort, integrity, resolution, and empathy. So I'll start with personalization. I first came across this term personalization maybe about 20 years ago, and it's kind of been growing and growing in importance, and I can see how it has evolved. Personalization is at different levels today. It's a big topic. We could spend half a day, one day talking about this, but let me just briefly say that it's really about knowing your customer when he's interacting with you at the most basic level. You know him, he's interacted with you, you have his details. You should be able to, without him having to, go back and tell you all about his previous interactions with you. At another level, it is about being proactive and going to him with relevant information. I mean, I can share an experience. So I'm going to use the experience of cars. I think if you buy certain cars today, previously you just buy a car and then you drive it and then you just take it in for servicing, and that's the relationship. But today, quite a few of the cars come with a SIM card in the car. So the car is constantly interacting. It's knowing your driving style. It knows when when you're going to be out of petrol, when you're in next service, and it communicates back to you, right? So that's something that is really advancing as you go into personalization. And as I believe that this concept will continue to grow and evolve. Okay. Expectations. Every customer that comes to you has got certain expectations in his mind. Okay, maybe he expects to be served within 20 minutes. If it's in a restaurant, maybe he expects to arrive if he's taking a flight in 3 hours. It comes with expectations, but more and more expectations are being driven by the digital experiences of customers, especially the younger ones. So the experiences that they have digitally, especially with the newer, kind of brands that are out there, they expect that older traditional brands behave in that way in terms of their interaction. So expectations become very important. Time and effort. So a customer is likely to come in with a certain expectation, tolerance of time and the amount of effort that he needs to interact with you, but he expects it to be quick. And the word that is used very often in substituting this is frictionless. So the amount of time and effort that he spends with you at a brand doing something should be frictionless. It should be quick. Now there is some tolerance of time and effort, but it's not instant. But it should be frictionless. It should be smooth. Okay. Integrity. This is again very associated with your brand and how much there is trust in your brand, in your interactions with the customer. When paying the bill, getting a bill, does he trust you? When you're giving him advice, let's say you're standing in a shop, he's making some recommendations to the new phone you're buying. Is that, does he believe you? Does he feel, you are trustworthy? And then integrity comes in when there are certain dramatic situations that happen, and then how the organization behaves also shows the organizational integrity. So very, very important concept. Resolution, no matter how good your processes are, there will be something that drops. The ball does get dropped one way or the other. And how you resolve it. Now, resolving is not just the outcome of how you, what compensation or how or what replacement is given, but how that process is taken through. Okay, how does the customer feel when something is being resolved? And the last but not least is empathy. When the customer comes with you in a difficult situation, something has happened. Let me just give you an example from a previous life of mine. Let's say a customer loses a phone. How do you treat him? How do you handle him when he's talking to you? So you need to show empathy in these circumstances. So just bear these in mind. These are important principles as you go about preparing the customer experience. Okay. So very quickly, let me just run through a couple of trends that are I think happening. I mean, it's not rocket science, but I would just say that customer engagement these days is multi-channel. There are some brands, some products, or rather some services that are purely digital. I think these relate mostly when you're talking about information, where you're dealing with content. So if you are signing up to a Netflix account and then experiencing it, you physically don't have to meet anybody, you don't have to go anywhere, everything is done digitally. So there are few brands in that category. If you're borrowing a library book today, and I think that's the only way to read a book in these circumstances. So NLB has got an app where you can just go and borrow ebooks from them, and that customer engagement is totally digital. But I think for most brands, there will be a human interaction, physical interaction together with the machine, and it's digital. Okay. Next, mobile first. I think this is not new. Everybody knows that 50% of data traffic is carried on mobile today. But what is more important is that the number of mobile phones out there connected to the internet are much, much more than the number of computers. Okay. This is the other, I think, important trend. When the experience digitally is great, customers will prefer self-service. Okay, by and large, I think that's going to be the trend. Now, what's coming, I believe, are that there will be more smart devices beyond your mobile phone, okay, and the Internet of Things. This will drive new trends. So, you have things like Google Home today, Alexa, and so on. I think as more devices come on and the experience gets better, you'll find that you need to start preparing for and treating them as new touch points in your customer experience delivery. Okay, so some things to watch out for. Okay, so what's the problem with customer experience today? I think most organizations are still, when you talk about a touch point or customer experience, they think of themselves, of these touch points in isolation. So all the touch points, so sales, customer service, repairs, billing, all these things are treated as separate touch points, isolation. It's the way the organization is organized. Plus, there is probably no one looking at customer experience holistically. Okay, so that's something that we need to be very, very mindful of. And this is the walls that we need to try and break down. So only when the customer is put at the center of the whole interaction does these walls start to break down. Okay, so you need to put the customer totally at the center of this experience. Now, so there's a tool, and let me get down. So I've been somewhat conceptual talking up to now. Let me just try and get down into something that is a little bit more down to earth and how you go about building your brands through customer experience. So the main tool that's part of this is what is called a customer journey map. It's a useful tool to represent all the interactions that your customers have at all the touch points over time. So it's a long sentence, mouthful, but it's the interactions, the touch points, and the relationship that you build with the brand. Okay. Now, customer journey should capture what happens before, during, and after the use of the product. So from the time the customer starts thinking of your brand and we need something, that's when the journey starts. And journeys can be over a prolonged period of time. Multiple touch points will be serving the customer during that journey, and the emotional state of the customer could be different at each point in the touch. So when he's buying something, it's different from when he's going for a repair, right? I think you can relate to that. So remember the customer journey map. Let's get on into a bit more detail. Now, I've listed 9 steps here that you should keep in mind when you're preparing a customer journey map. And I'll show you what it kind of looks like. But these are 9 steps. And it is, I think, important exercise. And it is worth doing. And there are a lot of steps. And I think it requires a lot of energy and effort. But I think what I am trying to say today is that you need to internalize this and make this a part of how you do things. Okay, so let me start. So the preparation. So like we said, you know, there are walls, there are different touch points, there are silos in the interactions. First thing is to bring all the relevant parties in together. And obviously you need leadership support for this. And I would encourage, other than the customer facing people, you need to bring in people who are not directly customer facing. It could be finance, because their payment policies and so on will have an impact on customers. It could be your engineering teams, because what they deliver is the customer experience. Okay. The next steps, number 2, is really important. You need to collect and prepare the data. There's a lot of data probably in your company, and you need to be able to identify what data there is. You need to be able to collect it in a meaningful way, and you need to turn that into insights. And that's a big topic, you know, in itself, data analytics and so on, and you can take it to town, you know, you can get into predictions and so on. But I think as a start, you just need to look at what is there and what that data is telling you so far. Okay, if you don't already have a clear brand promise, establish that. You need to start to establish that brand promise. So work with everybody and get it socialized across the organization. The next thing is creating personas. So obviously you need to start then identifying your customer profiles. Now, any organization may have, you know, a whole host of them. You can't be doing journeys for all of them, but I think you would want to start creating journeys for maybe 3, 4, 5, whatever you think is important. I think that's really depending on your business. You just need to start to create the personas, and the personas really about the actions the customer takes, the steps he's going to do, and how he reacts to these things. So I'll elaborate as I go along. And then the next thing is when you really start doing the journey. So you prepare the desired journey phases based on insights. So this is where the insights come in. And if you've got a current process, this is the time to look at it and say, hey, I can simplify my process. I don't need this. I can make payment easier for them. I can take that process of them signing up to my service or buying this product much easier. What can you do? You know, This is where you start to, kind of unravel and then try and put it back again. And one of the important things here is look at current customer pain points. What are the pain points? So again, data should be able to tell you. And what does the data say? Customers are taking too long with it. Customers are abandoning their purchase. Customers are coming in for repairs all the time for some reason or the other. So the data should be talking to you, and you pick up the insights from there. Once you've drawn that up, you start to do a couple of other things. You determine what customer actions are needed, and then you determine the emotions that they feel each time when they are doing this action. And this is very, very important, because I think then this is how you refine your journey. Map the touch points and the stakeholders, and then identify opportunities. And then from this, you identify opportunities. So this is all words. Let me try and put this into some kind of a diagram, if you will. So this is a typical customer journey map. You start with search, and then you evaluate, and then you make the purchase, and then you go into onboarding. This borrows from the airlines. You consume, and then there's the post-consumption. So in the interest of time, I think this should be fairly familiar with everybody. I'm not going to dwell on this, but let me make it a bit more real. Let's look at an airline example. Okay, so if you are an airline, how would you kind of high level map out your journey? Obviously, this is the customer planning his journey. It's triggered. He needs to make a trip, or he needs to plan. He talks to his friends. What happens? All that, you need to get those insights out there. And then there is the booking phase. Now, for airlines, the pre-flight is a very, very important stage, because there's check-in, there's immigration, there's customs, and then the process of onboarding. And when you talk about immigration and customs, the airline does not even control it. It's outside of that, their process. But they still need to be very, very aware of it. And then if you happen to be flying, a premium a premium sort of class, then there's this whole lounge experience and so on. And then there's a flight. There's a whole lot happening in the flight. In-flight entertainment, the food, and what else have you. And then you arrive, right? Okay. And then post-flight, luggage. What happens if luggage goes missing? And then you take off, and then you want to help the customer plan the next flight, and so on and so forth. So big picture airline map would look something like this. Then, so I've just transposed what I showed you earlier into this. I didn't put the post-flight, but I think you get the idea. Then remember, in the steps, I said you need to start mapping out actions, emotions, touch points, pain points. Once you put this down, either visually, you start to then appreciate the experience of the customer. And throughout, as you do this, you bear in mind the brand promise and the emotions the customer is filling out, and you map your journey accordingly. Let me show you an example of a train. It's a European train thing. This is how they mapped out. So the insights you can see here in red, I probably not very clear to you, but let me just pick up a few things and highlight them. People choose rail travel because it is convenient and easy and flexible. People build their travel plans over time. People value service that is respectful, effective, and personable. So those are the insights that they picked up. And then the journey part, and then what the customer is doing. So here, they mapped up how the booking and the purchase part takes place. Here, it's about the post-booking experience, what happens. Here is the travel and the post-travel experiences. And throughout, they map out what the customer is thinking, what the customer is feeling, and what the experience, the emotion that is experienced. And also, they've mapped out opportunities. Here, opportunities, for instance, help people get the help they need. Okay, so a lot of that is empowering the customer and putting it out there. So I'm just going to leave this slide for another 2 seconds. So this is what you start to map up, and then you start to then be able to deliver a really good experience to the customer. So I'm mindful of time, so let me just say that not all customer journeys are the same, but you need to sit down and do that. So your customer journeys will vary across industry. So the one used by an airline will certainly vary from the one used by an e-commerce company, and it will vary from maybe a traditional retail outlet. I think everybody was probably dying to get out and experience retail, be it shopping or spa, but so it's going to be different. And as you come out of this situation, we need to pick up the insights, how customer behaviors have changed, and how these then get translated into your customer journey mapping. If you don't do this, I think you'll be just improvising along the way. And that's something that I do not. I mean, in current circumstances, short time, no choice, your focus is on delivery. Sure, we need to improvise. But as you get out of this, we need to start then really building the journeys. Another point is that one firm may have many journeys. You think about a fast food restaurant. Very simply put, there's the dining in journey, there is the takeaway journey, and then there is the delivery journey. So all very three different journeys that you need to map up and plan, and what are the emotions, what's going on. But unifying factor is your brand promise. What does your brand stand for? So some final thoughts. So start at the high level, start with building a very high level journey, and then start to build detailed maps from there. So if you're an airline, you build something like what I showed you just now, then you start to build for first class passengers, business class passengers, economy passengers. And if you talk about, again, the first class or business class, you need to build a journey for when they go to the lounge, what happens there. So quite a bit that goes on in this thing. Okay. So let me come back to my favorite slide, just to reinforce the point. And I'll just read this again. So customer experience activities without brand alignment represent a lack of strategy. You need to string it together with a strategy. All your customer experience activities, align it with your brand. And branding without customer experience, does not exist, and the brand does not come alive. So you need to put both of these together. And what I'm saying is that when you focus on your customer experience, focus on a customer journey mapping exercise, project, whatever you call it, and then you start to then build your brand stronger. And I think there are some, let me just go to the next slide. Let me just make 2 comments. I think one of the biggest challenges around this is the fact that organizations are still built in silos, and the ownership of the customer journey is still not very clear in organizations. Is it with marketing? Is it with the digital guy? Is it with customer experience? Is it with the CEO? Is it with the COO? I think this is something that needs to be sorted out within each of your organizations. And some organizations have a chief customer experience officer, but I think the shape and form can be important, but I think the organization needs to adopt this. The other 2 things I just want to emphasize is the getting deeper into personalization. And when you get deeper into personalization, you start to think about data and how that then starts to play a very important part. So these are the things you have to think about. I hope I've given you something to think about, and I'll leave you at that and hand you back to Roger. Thank you very much for hearing me out.
Hi, thanks, Mr. Subra, for that wonderful presentation. I certainly, I don't know about our audience there, but I certainly benefited from what you have presented or what you have shared with us.
Thank you.
Particularly love the journey, the customer's journey that you put it very precise in the form of action, emotions, touch points, pain points, and opportunities out there. I think in today's context, especially in this COVID period, where it's very difficult to actually reach out to customers out there, other than through some digital medium. It
Mm-hmm.
poses a lot of challenges to companies. Okay, so Mr. Subra, perhaps I would welcome questions from the floor. So if you've got any questions at all, please post them in the Q&A panel. And meanwhile, let me post the very first questions that I have in mind. Um, in today's context itself, yeah, I think you correctly pointed out the ownership of customers' journeys experience. I think it should pause. It's still quite vague right now in terms of who should actually have the ownership in an organization itself. Um, Perhaps my question to you, sir, would be: when do you think we should start mapping out the customer's journey before the business begin for a startup, or midway through and making changes along the way or modifications along the way? Where would be the best time to actually map out the customer's journey experience? Sir?
Okay. So if you are a startup, then I really would encourage you to, I mean, of course, it's a startup. If you're just building some core engineering stuff and so on, it may still be early. But as you start to assemble your team and you start to begin to think about delivery, I think certainly earlier you start, earlier you define your brand promise, the earlier you start to map out your journey. Because when you define your brand promise and as you build, even if you're building the engineering and the IT portions of it, you can try to then scope it in such that you can deliver on the promise, right? So if you're a startup, start at the beginning, really start early. If you are already having existing operations, certainly then you should start today. You start immediately, because you then, I think, develop a strategy and the strength. I mean, there's a lot of talk today out there about digitization and digitalization and so on. I think that that's really important, because it brings with it a better experience when it's digital, and then of course there could be huge cost savings in the process of that. But I think that's not all of it, because many business, I mean, even if you are an e-commerce company, a large part of it is digital already, but the last mile is still delivered by somebody, and you need to make sure that that experience is also a great one. What happens when things get lost? What happens when the experience is lousy, and so on? And then there may be opportunities for you to leverage today. So I think that's when you need to improve on it. So um, start today and get the team and start working on it. Start looking at the data.
Thanks for that great answers. I think truly, I think it's early as possible in even during your plans on starting the business itself. You should in fact map up the customer's journey experience, so that along the way you can always modify, getting feedback and provided by data itself, and that's where you can actually make the experience a bit more palatable, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now today most of our audience are quite passive today. Now I believe that you did a great job answering most of the questions.
Either I did a great job or I just lost everybody along the way.
Oh, and I think I think it's a great topic that you have brought up to us. Oh, so maybe with the next questions that I have in mind, it's with today's technology, a lot of things are going digital and AI coming into the picture itself. Uh, and while I think AI is still at the very beginning stage, perhaps in terms of understanding customers, although data are available out there, but really when it comes to personalization itself, I would like to believe that there's still some gap in between. Okay, take for example, a very simple example on Facebook where you have chatbot. I always hate that, when you start to post a queries or something, and the chatbot will get back to you, and it's always well, I can almost expect what is going to come up from there. That thanks for your questions. We're gonna refer it to our team and things like that. So really, what do you think, sir? In the near future itself, where do you see the adoption of AI and customers' experience? How can that sort of help us in the area of mapping up even more precise experience? So perhaps if you can share with us on that, sir, based on your research or based on your experience, perhaps even some of the things that
Okay.
in terms of technology that's made available to us right now. So there's still a gap. So where do you see this coming?
So that's a really good question. So you talked about personalization. So as I said, personalization, I came across it 20 years ago. And my true belief is that this will continue to evolve. It will evolve based on a couple of things. One is the technologies that are available. So there is a certain amount of maturity that technology needs to be in. It needs to advance and be able to do certain things. And then there is this whole consumer acceptance. So even if you have that, there is consumer acceptance of using this. I mean, just take something like Google Home, right? It's an amazing product. I think adoption is still quite low, and the use of it from other applications, it's still not quite fully leveraged on. So I think that will keep evolving as we go along. You asked about AI. I mean, essentially that's got two benefits. One, it simplifies our life. Assuming it simplifies our life, it's probably something that's good. The other is that it brings around a lot of cost savings. Instead of having manpower, these things are done intelligently, and with AI, there's a lot of prediction power also. So in the past, you may have needed for something to happen. With this, it kind of anticipates what you're going to do. So all this is going to evolve. Technology is evolving. I mean, I'm not. I said this to you before. I'm not a fortune teller to be able to tell what is going to happen, but I think that is the path we are on. I hope that kind of answers what you are.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's an inevitable path. In fact,
Yes.
especially when we have more and more technology coming on board, helping us to actually narrow I would say the crystal ball itself, perhaps, to have a clearer crystal ball on
Correct.
what we can see.
So just on that, I think this is the other consideration of privacy, right? So this has suddenly become kind of surfacing these days, and I think it remains to be seen how the two kind of played out. I think legislation and governments and all that, governments are thinking about this quite seriously, and I think we just need to watch this space, how it all evolves. So when you talk about personalization, the other side of the coin is really this whole idea of privacy.
True enough. I think you can feel that, now with platforms, online platforms and digital platforms such as Facebook, all your peers will be able to trace where you're going. If you go for holidays, really intrigued, and some of them actually posted, "Hey, I'll be going for a holiday for 2 weeks." Yeah, but who is watching over your home then? So it makes it very easy for someone that wants to break into your home, right? I was being told once. But nevertheless, let's address the questions from the floor. So we've got the first thing in from Seth. He's currently working with his team to include metrics that measure emotions. Wow. They're currently measuring sentiments through text analytics, but he wants to include some direct questions that will enable them to drive clear action. Also, any advice from you on that?
Yeah, I think well, it's really good to that you're moving kind of ahead of the curve, trying to use text to analyze emotions. I think you just got to be careful about how advanced and how accurate these things reflect emotion. I mean, just to add to that, just reading another book, and this guy is saying that eventually, some of these brands will be able to analyze your emotions, not through text, but maybe you're wearing something, and then through your blood pressure, your heart rate, and some other, maybe even your perspiration, it can tell what kind of emotions you are experiencing. So you're already on that. Ask direct questions to drive clear. I'm not sure what you mean, but yeah, if it suits, why not? You could definitely ask, and you could do it within the current platform, or you could take it elsewhere, and then separately, depending on what information you're trying to get with them. I'm not sure I'm answering the question, but
I think yes, truly, sir, you do agree with you. To a certain extent, yes, you can ask a lot of questions or even some direct questions, even personal questions, for you to gain some form of analytics on your big data itself. But however, I think the more you ask, the more that you find that, hey, the segments are getting more and more fragmented towards personalization.
mm,
So seriously, it all depends on how big your target audience are, or are you able to personalize your content towards them. Thank you, sir. I think that is a great answer from
thank
you.
you, thank
Next,
you.
let's address the next question from Mr. Miss Jovitan. Or okay, you have mentioned that customers will choose self-centered first, self-service first. Sorry. Does that mean that we will put up very clear instructions online, or should we put up some guides and eventually leading them to our staff so that there are human interactions and conversations, if possible, upselling maybe?
Okay, so the point about self-service being first choice is a general one. But I think I'm not sure what business you are in. You need to really look at your business to see if that kind of broad statement makes sense. But I think with digitalization today, you are able to, there's two benefits with this self-service, right? The first is internal company driven, because you can't find enough manpower. Manpower is more costly, and so on. You are forced to choose self-service, but that's not the reason why you should always be doing that. It must be the customer experience that drives it. So I always use this example of the bank. It's you can do all your banking today anywhere in the world at any time, right? Because self-service is better than anything else. Even if it means you have to put cash into the cash deposit, it's still self-service. It's a much better experience than going and queuing up, right? So even something as kind of manual as that. Your question, if I read, should we put guidelines and eventually lead them to? I think look at your experience first. Does self-service in your context make sense? If it does, if it is a better experience than what you would do physically, and I emphasize that, if it's a better experience, and that is why customers are choosing it first. If it is a lousy experience, if your self-service is not a good experience, then the customer will come and stand in front of your store or do something like that. Okay, so and of course there is this process of migration. Assuming you get a good experience, then the question you are asking is, how do you start migrating? Then of course sometimes you may have to deliver it manually first, and then say, hey, did you know that we have this experience, and would you like to try it the next time? And yeah, so I hope that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, I think thanks, sir. I think true enough. I think Jovi, I think you really have to think on what kind of industries are you in. If you are in a industries that's very customer centric and you need a lot of human interactions, then perhaps you should keep it that way. The omni platforms in terms of serving both the online and the actual interactions with human. Okay, and especially so I can think of something that really helps in terms of delivering customers experience, especially in today's using machines and technology. And that's the vending machine. You are seeing really there's a growth in terms of products vending off machines right now.
Yep.
So even masks, our governments are actually relying on vending machines to allocate masks. I think that's a wonderful customer's experience, right? So we don't have to queue up 24/7 as and when. We just have to scan our IC and we can get all of the masks that's given
And
to us.
it's driven by a new need, right, for safe distancing, right? So suddenly this need comes and this happens. The question now becomes, will this be adopted in future going forward? Are customers more willing to adopt this as typical behavior? I mean, I think in Japan it's very common. Yeah, so
True enough. I think it really depends on the customer's journey itself. I would really appreciate that, uh, having to make it so convenient. And
absolutely.
we are also looking at different generations. In fact, the baby
Yep,
boomer, Gen X, and Gen Y.
of course, of course.
Different. They will expect different kind of service level or service uh, to them. So okay, we have a last questions, which are okay. Good afternoon, sir. I think from Leah, she's a major student in international economics and trade here, having a coffee business. Wow, an entrepreneur at the same time.
Yeah.
Just want to know how to increase brand awareness and increase user engagement. Well, that's a big topic, right? I think, yeah,
Leah.
I would suggest you should pick up Mr. Subra's course for his course and training. I think we're making up a 2 days to 3 days sessions to benefit all of you out there that really want to know more about customers' journey and how to map out an effective customers' journey experience and of course building brands along the way. So one last question just came in. Sir, is it okay? I mean, we are
Sure. Happy to answer that.
we'll address that last questions from Georgina. Georgina has been with us, wow, all this while for a long time, for the past 16 days, I think. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm seeing your name appearing all the time. But that's good. Thanks for joining us. But her questions to you, sir, would be, two of key customers' interactions include human and physical touch points. Bearing in mind that the circuit breaker and the COVID-19, do you think digital touch points might take over these two touch points in time to come? Yeah, that's like looking
Okay.
into the crystal ball again.
Yeah. So in my view, I don't think that the physical and the human will entirely disappear. I mean, for most businesses, you still, I mean, if you go to a restaurant, or even if you are ordering online today, there is a human interaction at the tail end of it. So you're not going to get away from that human interaction. So albeit maybe 95% of it is digital, that last portion is. If you want to go to a theater, you want to go to a movie, there is still a physical interaction. You maybe in that instance you can do away with the human, but you still need the physical because you want to experience what is going on in the theater as opposed to watching it on your phone or your laptop or something like that. So I don't think that they will entirely disappear. And I would just say that I think the only businesses is what I described just now, where you are dealing with content and information that you can transmit digitally, is where you can be entirely digital. Netflix, Spotify, borrowing a book from the library, things like that, to some extent teaching information. We could still do what we are doing now. We could teach online, there is no physical. So where there's information content, yes, I think you can go purely digital. But in the other aspects, I think it's quite difficult. It's just the extent. And but I think what is important to recognize is that you should be looking at digitizing and digitalizing your your operations, which bring about, I believe, generally cost savings as well as a better experience. So you make your digital experience better, so you don't have to rely entirely on, or you rely less on the human and the physical. And with the humans, you get them to do better things, more important things. That's what I would say. So it depends how you frame the word takeover. Takeover mean more and more? Yes. Totally take over, I think only in the case where you're dealing with information and content.
Okay, I think great insight from there, sir. So I think our attendees are not going to let you go, man. So they're keep coming in and keep coming. Is it okay that we address those questions?
Sure. Let's do that.
It's really a wonderful time that you are able to spend with us. So, Mr. Subra, I think I'll just address some of those questions, but I think this will be the last two. Okay, how to build company branding and excellence customer experience for a start area where currently dominated by a lot of giants. Okay, so I think perhaps it's looking at a SME or even a startup. It's talking about how to build company branding and excellence customer experience for a start area, maybe a startup or a new area itself where currently dominated by a lot of giants. So what's your take on that, sir?
Okay, so I think let me split this answer into two. You're asking two questions, one about branding and excellence. And I think somewhere in there is, how do I take on these giants? Okay, so it's actually two different questions. I think the taking on the giants requires a lot more study and thought and so on. And you need to recognize where there are giants, what your role is there. What kind of market share are you going? What is your strategy to disrupt the giants? So that's something that you need to think about carefully. I don't know what business you are in, but that's a separate discussion. But let's say you decide that, okay, there's a lot of giants out there, but I'm unique. I'm going to still go after a small percentage, of the market share, or I'm going to get that many customers, and that will still make me profitable. Once you decide that, then I would say start again. Same thing. Be very clear about your brand promise. What are you delivering to your customers so that you can pick up that 5%, 10% of customers, or 10,000, 20,000 customers that you want to build, or 100,000, whatever that number. And then start to build your experience, be it a physical experience, be it a digital experience. Build it, understand your customers, and map out that journey. I mean, there are many other strategies that go into making you successful, but I think this is, I think, very, very important. Of course, when you talk about branding, I think that's a totally different topic from what we are discussing here. Then you need to start at the bottom and say, how do you actually, what is a brand, and that can take you off in many, many directions. Is it just the logo? What does your brand stand for? What are you trying to do? It's about crafting your brand promise. But yeah, so think about it. Are you doing the right thing, taking on the giants with your strategy? If your answer is yes, I can still do it, then go and do the right thing. Start with your brand promise and build a great customer experience. I hope I answered that.
Thanks. Seriously, I think it's really about the market size. Whether it makes sense or not for you to take on the giants. Is it sufficient? I think that's a great answer. Now, the last questions, I don't think... what is the gold standard for customers' experience in loyalty membership? That's quite big, right? That really depends on...
I'm getting all the...
Who are you benchmarking against?
Yeah.
Your loyal membership programs, as in hotels, as in some of the health parlors and things like that, or even some of the brands like credit cards, customers' loyalty programs. It really differs, right, from one.
Yeah. So I think you need to start and ask yourself, what is this loyalty program for? Now, in the past, loyalty programs were really like a cost center. It was an expense. a marketing expense. Yes, it's a useful marketing expense because you keep the customer, there is loyalty, right? But it was treated as an expense. I think more and more organizations are now beginning to think of a loyalty program more as a membership program. Usually there is a lead player, and then there are other participants that come in and add value. Then it becomes like a points exchange. I can use these points to redeem not just my own products and services, but I can redeem from other brands as well. This is where I said why brands are important. Brands are important because you want to attract the right partners. One of the reasons you want to attract the right partners. So if you have a good brand, a strong brand, your customers like you, then your partners will also like you. So what I'm trying to say is, in the old days, the idea of a loyalty program is just membership and points, but it's evolving more and more into kind of a membership thing where you bring in strong brands together. There's a lot of partnership, and then you work on it. It's not easy because every partner has got its own agenda and he thinks his own brand is better and this all that. But if you can come to some kind of agreement, and there are some examples, usually there's one lead strong brand, and then you build this out. So you then start to extend it to this group of services, relevant services. Okay. Because it's such an evolving space, I mean, look, I don't want to really quote any brands or examples right here now, but you can look at SIA's KrisFlyer program. They've kind of expanded it now. You can use KrisFlyer now, Kris Pay points to redeem things, petrol and other stuff. So you can see that whole thing being expanded out of just pure redeeming flights. In the past, it was just redeem flights, right? So now you can start to do a lot more things with it. Okay.
True. I think, wow, thanks for that wonderful answer. I think that's it for today. I think really need to give you a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
It really stretches beyond our time, but hey, I think it's great, that you are able to share your experience with us, your insight. Thank you so much. All right, so
welcome.
give a word of thanks on behalf of the Marketing Institute of Singapore. And like I said, Mr. Subra, it's our newly acquired trainer. We're certainly very excited to have him as one of our trainer in the Marketing Institute of Singapore Executive Development Program. So if you like his talk today and would like to come for his course, please scan on the QR code, okay? All right, and to find out more about Mr. Subra's course coming up as an executive training program with the Marketing Institute of Singapore. Don't leave yet, okay? I've got a very important announcement, which I think all of you will be very keen. Stay on, I'm going to tell you more about that announcement itself. Then, of course, tomorrow, our speaker, all right, will be none other than Mr. Yao Sing. Okay, Mr. Jack, a close friend of mine too, for a couple of years. Jack Yao, it's going to so much from China, Beijing. It's going to talk about service with a smile thanks to standards. This is a very interesting topic, let me tell you that, because I know Jack has been very deeply involved in the area of standardization. So I think you probably can pick up quite a few things from him, talking about how you set standards in the industries, and he's pretty involved in the ISO global community itself. So do look out for that. All right, and of course, which means the next slide itself. Next, please. Okay, do like us on MIS Facebook itself. All right, and then go on to our Facebook and like. At this point of time, I want to tell you something that's important coming up. This is a very, very important announcement. Okay, I don't want you to miss this, especially those that some of you have been with us since day one of our webinar sessions. Okay, bearing in mind that on the 27th of May, I think I've announced something like that. On the 27th of May itself, it's where we will be celebrating the Asia Marketing Day. Now, this is actually in conjunction with Professor Kotler's 89th birthday. Now, I was being corrected yesterday. It will be his 89th birthday this year. So we'll be celebrating the Asia Marketing Day. So what you expect out of this Asia Marketing Day is that you will see, in fact, more than 20 countries coming in together to have a regional webinar sessions, which will be conducted over 3 segments, 3 time zones. Okay, all right. So do look out for that program coming up. I will be able to share with you more, where you'll be seeing a lot of associations, national marketing associations, such as Marketing Institute of Singapore that represents Singapore in the area of marketing. All right. So what I can name is a couple of countries from Korea, China, regions like Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, Mongolia, ASEAN countries, and then the South Asia would include Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and then Maldives, and quite a few of them. We're going to put up a very interesting topics for the webinar, and we will be inviting Professor Philip Kotler. Okay, so this is something please don't miss it. All right, join us. Anyway, this platform is made available to you from the Marketing Institute of Singapore, and you can look out for more of our folks joining from the Asia Marketing Federation. Okay, which will bring me to our next slide. All right. Yeah, like what is being flashed on our screen right now. So do go on to your Facebook, like us on your Facebook, follow us. Okay, I believe you'll be able to pick up some good from there. Okay. All right. And like what I said, the Marketing Institute of Singapore will executive development program have been voted number one in Singapore itself for the past 5 years. Check out who's the second actually. It'd be interesting to know. And you know, as the non-corporate training provider in Singapore itself, I think you look into our programs, they're certainly of very high quality, and our trainers come with experience. Okay, so they're not just academic alone; they are also practitioners, which will be able to share with you their practical experience, so that you'll be able to use it almost immediately in your workplace. Okay, so do pick up skill set like that, which will be able to help you post-COVID. Right. Which will bring me to the next thing. It's the diploma, advanced diploma in digital marketing, diploma in business, and diploma in sales and marketing. If you have time, I think it's time for you to upgrade. Or you probably may know of someone who needs to upgrade themselves. I would highly recommend even the advanced diploma in digital marketing. If you want to be certified as a digital marketer, I think that would be a nice program. Okay, it's not. We're making it very affordable for everyone, in fact, and easy for you to actually take up the course. I won't tell you that much. You probably find out more from our Facebook and our website. Okay, and of course, MIS, we are going virtual at this time. We have to. I think it's a good thing that comes out of the COVID-19 lockdown and circuit breaker. As you can see, I'm here every day with accompanying you from 12:30 right up to today, even at 2 o'clock beyond my lunchtime. So, well, we will still be here. Our third series and fourth series of speakers coming on board. We will be here right down to accompany you to the end of the circuit breaker period and to the end of the lockdown period itself. So look out for more speakers coming on board. I promise you, it'll be an exciting journey coming on, especially our series, our fourth series. And thanks to all the speakers that have been with us, the trainer has been during our first and second series. But just in case you want to find out more, you can just go on to the YouTube and look out for the past speakers that have spoken in our MIS lunchtime webinar, and you'll be able to find out more. And if you want, like for today's sessions, if you miss out the early part, no worries. Our YouTube and our Facebook, you'll be able to recap on some of the things that Mr. Subra has spoken today. Okay, we've reached sessions today, and I do thank you for staying with us during our lunchtime, and hope to see you tomorrow. And remember, lock your date, 27th of May. It's going to start its full time at 10 o'clock or 10:30, whichever. Okay. And right up to around 4 o'clock. We're going to have a whole day of celebration with a lot of interesting topics coming on. So to find out more, I'll be sharing with you more in days to come.